So shalom, you guys. I wanted to show you a very interesting newspaper article I found while I was looking up different topics. I'm back on the chroniclingamerica.net, looking through the newspaper archives, American newspaper archives, looking up different things like lynchings, looking up things about Negro music and articles about talking about and praising Negro music, Negro cowboys. A lot of things I'm looking up. I love going through here and just on my free time. It's relaxing just looking up newspaper articles and seeing what I can find. But I found a very interesting one. And this one is from, I believe it's from 1935. And I read the title and I was like, oh, this one's going to be interesting. And I think you guys are going to enjoy this. And it's going to entail and it's going to detail some things we already know. And I'm just going to tell you the title right here. And right off the bat, you should know where I'm going to go with this right off the bat of the title of this. Jews in Germany have nothing on Negroes in Mississippi. Now, we know the people over there are not the real people. They're not. And their own people speculate, and their own people question the quote-unquote Holocaust. And I've read in several other articles on my YouTube. Go check out some of my old videos on lynchings and stuff like that. An article literally titled "The Border Ruffians," and it entitled what was going on in the American South after the Civil War, before the Civil War, and during the Civil War as an American Holocaust, a Holocaust towards the American Negro that nobody talks about. Nobody says that the American Negro went through the Holocaust or went through a Holocaust or went through a genocide. They just always try to code term it and say it was this and lower the numbers. I continue to say till this day, I continue to scream out loud. They have hidden every form of numbers of how many of us there are just off the bat. They've been telling us we're 13% of the population for over 400 years now, damn near 300 plus years now. They've been saying we're so little for so long, and they always try to hide the numbers of how many of us they've actually taken down, lynched, jailed, killed, and how many of us there are in general. So, but we know they're not going to make an account for that, and we know why they're hiding us. We know why they're trying to rename us and reclassify us and all that. And we know that those people over there are not the real people. So I saw this article and I was like, ain't no way they actually put something like this in a newspaper article. But it's from 1938, like I read, and we're going to get into this article. Let me read the title again. Jews in Germany have nothing on the Negroes in Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi, August 31st, by ANP. In the heated and almost unbelievably ridiculous gubernatorial primary runoff campaign concluded in the state Tuesday, the public was informed of an amazing set of crimes, quote-unquote crimes, of which the Negro in the state may be guilty, or his friends. The two candidates were Hugh White, millionaire lumberman, and Paul B. Johnson, a former judge. They opposed each other in the Democratic runoff. The two issues in the campaign were Huey Long, senator from Louisiana, and the Negro. These two issues became merged into one. Don't let the Negro get out of his place. Almost daily reports reach this country of new crimes possible of commitment by Jews, which Nazi government in Germany has defined. The outside world, including the United States and Mississippi, is horrified. So they're getting news of the Jews or how they're being treated over there in 1938 in Germany. And I truly believe that this was all a show, like they're doing with Israel and Palestine. I believe that over there at that time too, they were putting on a show because they needed to cover up how many black people were actually being lynched in the United States. And I hate to keep on going off topic. I wanted to make this a short video, but reading the articles on the Scottsboro boys, there were literal revolts going around in different countries at the time of the Scottsboro boys, the 9 boys that were accused of assaulting a woman. And there was literally people rioting in different nations, and there was articles I have, shame on America, the only country that still burns people at the stake, the only nation that is still burning people at the stake. that was talking about America. Okay, so America looked awful. America was, at the same time too, white people in America were attempting to play moral police with everybody, and always have in the high moral, sitting on a high moral horse, when people were looking at them like, aren't you guys burning black people alive in America, and lynching them for sneezing too hard, and lynching them for having their hair too high, or being too creative and stuff like that. And it was a horrible look on them, horrible look on America. And they knew it, and two, they knew we were going to be waking up very soon, so they had to kind of ease off and kind of hide the type of oppression they were giving us, and make it seem as though we weren't being treated the worst, even though we were, and that other people were more hated than we were, specifically the quote-unquote real Jews that they set up over there in the fake Israel, or what would be now the fake Israel, and where they came from, quote-unquote Germany. Now, we all know that the Germans, the real German Jews, left a long time ago. They left a long time ago from Germany and Europe, and they were already kicked out, and they were already made their way to the Americas. But we're not going to get into that. Let's get back to this paper, all right? The two issues in the campaign were Huey Long, senator from Louisiana, and the Negro. These two issues became merged into one. Don't let the Negro get out of his place. Almost daily reports reached this country of new crimes possible of commitment by Jews, which Nazi government in Germany has defined. The outside world, including the United States in Mississippi, is horrified. There isn't an upright Negro in Mississippi who wouldn't swap places with a Berlin Jew and pay him a bonus. There isn't a Jew in Germany who, having agreed to come to Mississippi and live as a Negro, could be compelled to keep the bargain. So they're saying, if we were to ask a Negro in Mississippi to swap places with the Jew in Germany, he would do it in a heartbeat with no questions asked. If we were to ask the Jew in Germany to come switch places with the Negro in Mississippi, they would not be able to stand that at all. And the campaign just ended. Hugh White accused Huey Long and Paul Johnson of angling for the Negro vote. So they were saying, oh, you're just saying this so you can get the Negro vote. Paul Johnson charged that Hugh White was seeking the Negro vote. Both men impressed their audience that it was criminal for a white Aryan man in Mississippi to encourage a Negro, Jay, to exercise his franchise as an American citizen. Interesting. Both men charged it was criminal for a Negro to think of voting in a white Democratic primary. Both men implied that it was criminal for a colored American citizen in Mississippi to have any interest whatever in the person elected as governor of the state. And we know this. I've read articles where a whole town was go back and read my lynching videos. I've read newspaper articles where whole parts of towns were burned down and black people were threatened because they wanted to vote in elections. Don't you dare fucking try. Don't you dare think about coming over here and voting. So this white dude's like saying, how am I saying this to get the Negro vote when we're down in Mississippi? You guys won't even let them vote, even though they can. So they got called out for that. So Hugh White charged that the colored man had heckled. All right, so let's go back up here. Both men implied that it was criminal for a colored American citizen in Mississippi to have any interest whatever in the person elected as governor of the state. Hugh White charged that a colored man had heckled him at Tupelo, Mississippi, that is, and that it had been difficult to hold the mob off this colored man. White gave the following description of his heckling. Saturday night, I spoke to an audience over in Tupelo that numbered nearly 5,000 persons. While I was making my talk, someone shouted from a car in a nearby street. He said, "Yes, you are a millionaire." Later, he said, "Hurrah for Mr. Johnson and for Mr. Huey Long." Some of our friends were standing nearby and went over to see who was heckling me. Who do you think it was? It was a big buck Negro. Trouble was averted, but the Negro was warned. He kept his mouth shut. Thus, in Mississippi, a Negro runs the risk of mob violence if he calls a white man a millionaire, or if he cheers either Huey Long or Paul Johnson. A Jew in Germany might call a German a millionaire or cheer for Hitler without danger of bodily harm. There you go. So that was a very interesting article. I was like, well, we already all know this. If you know, then you know. But I want to read, or I don't think I'm going to read it. You know what? Let me just read it because it's very short. Now, I want you to go back into my videos. I'm going to link all the videos I've mentioned, and I'm going to read something from this book right here, Mississippi Black Papers. Speaking on Mississippi, 57 Negro and white citizens' testimony of police brutality, the breakdown in law and order, and the corruption of justice in Mississippi. And I have so many articles talking about how bad it was to live in Mississippi as a black person. Until this day, Mississippi is still mocked and made fun of just being the literal epitome of the South of the South. You have the worst of the worst there. And we're gonna jump over to page 14 in Mississippi Black Paper, and we're gonna read just one short story sent into the NCAAP, which is sent over to the FBI on police brutality and injustice in Mississippi from the 1960s. Coahoma County. I am a Negro, 38 years old. I reside with my husband in Clarksville, Mississippi. I am a secretary of the Coahoma County NCAAP, and on April 23, 1963, I was beaten by Mr. Blank and Blank service station attendant because I asked to use the service station restroom while they were servicing my car. He refused to return my change, and because I refused to stop asking for my change back, this was an additional reason he began to beat me. Now, I read the story before. Let me finish it. After I returned home, I called the office of Police Officer A and reported the incident and asked that Officer A get in touch with me. About 50 minutes later, he came to my house with a warrant for my arrest for disturbing the peace. Now, this lady was going to getting gas in her car. She stopped at a service station owned by a white guy, got out, asked for the service. The guy started giving her the service, and asked to use the restroom while he was servicing her car, in which he refused. She then got upset and said, "Give me back my change. I'll go somewhere else because you're not going to let me use the restroom at your service station." In which the man told her, "No, I'm not giving you anything back. Get in your car and leave." She asked for it and he didn't give it back to her. He began to beat her because she asked for her change. After I returned home, I called Office of Police Officer A and reported the incident and asked that Officer A get in touch with me. About 50 minutes later, he came to my house with a warrant for my arrest for disturbing the peace and arrested me. I had to post bond in order to seek medical treatment. On June 8th, 1963, about 20 minutes to 1 in the morning, while I was in bed, somebody shot into our house and the bullet was recovered from under the piano. Officer B investigated the incident, but no one has been arrested. Signed, Vera Mae Pidgey. Now, that's just one story from this book, Mississippi Black Paper. And I just read you the newspaper article that the black people in Mississippi had it worse than the Jews in Germany.